Hey, it's Adam from Birdwood Guitars, and you are listening to the Cigar Box Guitar Builder podcast. Well, lots been happening. This is going to be entitled What's Been Happening. Quite a few things have been going on. Obviously, the shop's going great guns. We're very, very happy with how things are proceeding in the store. We don't have a lot of time because it's basically just me who does all of the building, the guitar repairs, that type of thing. I'm finding myself very, very, very stretched for time as far as being able to do this podcast, which I have to admit I really, really love doing. So more news upon that in just a little bit. So some people have been interested in what's been happening at the shop, and the reason I'm saying that is every now and again I hear dissatisfied voices out on the internets, jumping up and down saying there's no money to be made in cigar box guitars, you should only be doing it for a hobby, and yada yada yada. Having said that, man, if you're just doing it for a hobby and you want to give your guitars away, God bless you. God bless you. There's nothing wrong with doing that at all. But if you want to basically make a living out of it or supplement your income by building cigar box guitars or Roots instruments, then I kind of, it's cool in that I've kind of been able to get out there and demonstrate that you can actually do it from a bricks and mortar premises, not just from your backyard, not just on eBay, not just on Etsy or any of the other multitude of online retail spaces. Markets are friggin' exhausting. All right, so they are absolutely exhausting, and some markets cost a damn fortune. Let's be honest, it's not cheap to do markets. So I'll give you an example. Your Monday markets, I think, up in Queensland, which is where I first met Michael, who introduced me to cigar box guitars, I think in 2012. It was going back a while. I know he and many of the other people who go in and do those markets at your Monday, it costs them an absolute fortune to do them. And then there's other people, of course, who will not just do markets, they will also do festivals. Or they'll do music, whatever. They'll do, all sorts of things. But it all costs money. Money. Now, to have a shop is not an inexpensive way to do things. There are some months when it gets to be time to pay the rent, and you are sitting there thinking, how the heck am I going to get the rent money for the shop this month? It can be a very daunting and very, very, very scary kind of thing, and we've had a couple of months where we've really had to fight to make the rent for the shop, on top of having to pay money to myself, into the house and for stock, and for ordering equipment to actually build the guitars, or guitar repairs, or the strings, or there's a lot of overheads in running a store as opposed maybe to running a market. But there's also a lot of positive things about that. People do get to know where you are. There is a certain element of trust associated with a bricks and mortar shop as well. And this is something that we've really recognised and we've really seen. I don't do this alone. I've had a couple of friends who've been incredibly invaluable. Not that they listen to the podcast, but it's these are friends of mine who basically they give their own time to open the shop on days when I can't, and they'll go in and they'll help out, and pretty much on a volunteer basis. So big thanks to Lloyd, who was with us from the pretty much the second day after we opened through until February this year, and then the damn fool went and got himself married and moved to the Big Smoke. And then there's Nick and Tim Mason from Oak Amplifiers. Tim Mason from Oak Amplifiers up here in the Blue Mountains, who goes in every second Saturday, and help out. And otherwise, I'm still basically working 7 days a week. I don't get holidays. I haven't had a holiday now in over a year. Apart from the odd day off here, the odd day off there to go to the beach with the kids, or with the wife and all that sort of stuff. So it's been bloody hard work, but at the same time, I'm doing something that I absolutely love. There's no compromise as far as choosing an occupation that I wake up in the morning and I'm jumping out of bed, most days. To race down to the shop and open the shop, or race, down to the workshop and continue working on orders. I'll talk about orders in just a little bit. It is possible. Now, as I've mentioned before, there are 3 stores here in Australia which specialise in cigar box guitars. There's myself at Berkeley Guitars at Katoomba. There is, I'm going to say Mark Wilkes, and I hope I've got that right. I have interviewed him before. From Village Guitars. Now, he has a company called Buzzbox Guitars. He builds beautiful cigar box guitars as well. He does a lot with those, and he does festivals and things as well. And then there is our wonderful friend Shane Soul from Yakindanda, who also has a shop down in Yakindanda, which I think is on the on the border of New South Wales and Victoria, just down in that direction down there. And he's, these are some wonderful characters as well. So it's you don't often though find shops that are really so heavily focused on the cigar box guitar movement or cigar box guitar customers. Now, my shop is a little bit of it's an interesting bag. There are 3 main sections to our shop really. There's there's obviously the cigar box guitars, which are right at the front door. They take up basically half of they take up the main wall of the shop when you walk in. There is also a section which I call the grotto, which is at the back of the shop, which is basically the guitar amplifiers and the 6-string electric guitars, vintage, mostly vintage electric guitars. And then there's the black wall of the shop, which has all of the acoustic guitars. We've got a lot of vintage acoustic guitars and second-hand guitars. I suppose there is a diversion, and also our Faith acoustic guitars as well, which are brand new. We're one of only, I think, 11 retailers in Australia who are actually stocking Faith, so it's a little bit of a feather in our cap as well, so that we've been trusted to do that. We're also Ernie Ball dealers as well. We've also become an Ernie Ball dealer, for strings and cables and accessories and all that sort of stuff. And Ernie Ball, or the company that deals with Ernie Ball and Faith, are the only supplier that I've actually got. Apart from that, we are utterly and totally independent, which is a really cool thing. Now, 10 years ago, actually more, it was 2001 when I initially looked at opening a music shop. I was really gung-ho about it. I hated being in retail. This is before I became a teacher. I was looking at opening a music store, and it was going to cost me, on paper, $40,000 to get all of my stock together. And this is before I was building cigar box guitars as well. I hadn't even heard of them before. And it was going to cost about $40,000. So I thought, well, that dream's just not going to happen. So I'll just keep slogging it out, doing something I really don't necessarily like doing. Fast forward to May of last year when we opened. We literally opened the shop with $2,000 cash. For the rent, for the bond, and a bit of paint. And then, it went hell-bent for leather from there. It is still a case of, we do live week to week. On weeks where, we struggle to make our income, we struggle. We do without, sometimes. But we've never had it tough that we can't put food on the table for the kids or pay the mortgage or, that type of thing. So we've been very lucky, and, thanks to whoever's looking out for me. So, there's a lot of things happening there. Cigar box guitars are basically the bread and butter for the shop. The majority of our trade comes from the cigar box guitars. Also, it would definitely be 75% of our trade, 70 to 75% of our trade would come from cigar box guitar sales. Online and in store. There will be months where online will beat out the store. And you sit there thinking, well, why have I got the shop? And then on the other hand, then you'll get an electric guitar sales, or you'll get an acoustic guitar sale. On top of that, I also have been dabbling and, well, quite seriously actually, in fact, in building guitar effect pedals. So we build a variety of boost pedals, fuzz pedals, and overdrive at the moment, all transistor based, which we're absolutely loving. We sell them in the shop. We're looking at a couple of stores maybe to actually sell from as well. And yeah, they are selling really, really well. But it's come down to merchandising. There's a lot of merchandising that happens in the shop. Now, I've got about 16 years of fashion retail experience. I worked in the rag trade for a long time. And that's actually really, really helped. So, for example, when people come in and try the cigar box guitars or they try the electric guitars, the first thing we do is plug them into a small pedal board that has a variety of our pedals on it, the pedals that I build, the retro electric pedals, and people get to try it through that. So, although they may not buy a guitar, they may buy a pedal. Although they may not buy a pedal that day, because they've used them, if they like them, it's in the back of their mind, and we get repeat clientele off that. So anyway, look, it's a fairly short podcast today, just to let you know that we are still here. We are still producing the podcast. I'm saying we because Mark Wilmot and I will be back very, very shortly. Mark and I have been in discussion about how we want to set this up. The shop, Mark Wilmot, of course, is from MRWS, Parts and Supply Company. He supplies parts for for cigar box guitars. He's based in Brisbane, here in Australia. Mark is a good friend of mine. Now, Mark also, what he doesn't know about building cigar box guitars and about woodwork, it's not worth talking about then, because Mark is far more experienced than I am in woodworking. I build electric guitars as well as cigar box guitars, but Mark is a true artist when it comes to working with timbers. So this is something that's going to be hopefully very exciting. Mark has done quite a few of our podcasts with us before, but we're both very excited about actually moving forward with this and answering a lot of your questions. So if you have questions regarding building cigar box guitars, please post your questions in the group. If you're not part of the group at the moment, it is a group called the Cigar Box Guitar Builder. Please join the group. Both myself and Mark are admins for the group. I believe Mark's an admin for the group. If he's not, I better fix that up, haven't I? And this is going to be your opportunity to ask questions of myself, just to give you a bit of an idea, especially if you're starting out with building cigar box guitars or even playing cigar box guitars or roots instruments. I'm approaching very close to actually 700 guitars in total since I started building. So we've built a lot. We've built a relatively successful business out of it, slowly and organically. Without hype, without going over the top. It's really, it is something that's been very cool and very important to me, and something I really love to do. Mark has developed an absolutely fantastic business as well. He is a master craftsman. Now, he leaves me in the dust as far as what he can do with timber and his finishing, and he is a real true woodworking artist. So if there's any questions that you've got, please don't hesitate to pop your questions up on the group. We'll be very happy to to have a look at those questions and see if we can answer those questions for you. Also, if you have any music, if you've got any music that you've recorded that you have on MP3 that you think would be cool for the podcast to play, ideally played on Cigar Box guitar or Roots instruments of that sort, that would be wonderful as well. But Mark and I will be with you very shortly, hoping to answer your questions and give you a bit of entertainment and kind of share a bit of what we're doing and our knowledge. At this point in time, I have no intention of getting any sponsorship for the podcast, for the Cigar Box Guitar Builder podcast. This is just something that Mark and I are doing as friends. We will of course be talking with Mark about any new products and things like that. As a public service announcement for you guys. It's his job. I'll be talking to you about what I'm building and things like that. So if you ever want to buy something from me, the opportunity will be there for you as well. Having said that, if I was interviewing, anyone like, Ben again from CB Giddy, or if I was interviewing, Michael from MGB, I'd be certainly asking them about their products and things like that. So, if anything comes up like that in the future, if anyone's making, like Randy Bretts, for example, who builds absolutely beautiful bone and timber slides, I would expect Randy to be, promoting his business as well. So, there is no sponsorship, there is no affiliation between me and Mark, apart from the fact that, yes, I do order stock from Mark. I don't get discounts from Mark. This is just me letting you guys know what's happening. It's with transparency and things like that. Any questions, don't hesitate to ask. We'll probably leave it at that today. That's what's basically happening. So Mark and I will be with you, back with you, in the next couple of weeks, having a chat with you about all sorts of things CBG, Cigar Box Guitars. Have a good one, and it's bye from me.